Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we have, a watch which really needs no introduction. You can just imagine the Seiko boardroom back in the late 90s thinking we need to bring out a new watch. We need something which is affordable, functional, strong, and something which will capture the imagination and possibly become an icon. And they came up with this, and to be fair, they nailed it. This is the first generation Seiko Monster, reference number SKX779. Now, just look at it. You know, it's, to be fair, it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's bold and brash, but it's one of those watches that everyone seems to have a soft spot for. They just really did well with this watch. It ran all the way from 2000 in this guise, I think up to 2012, something like that, so 12 years or so. They really did seem to nail it, and subsequently afterwards there's been generation 2, generation 3, and the later generation which I've also reviewed. But this is the watch which started it. When you think it really was, it was made on a budget, but they just got it right. They got it to the point that everyone wanted one. There was a million different dial variations. I personally quite like the black one. This is actually one of my friend's watches, Chris, and he's had this watch for years. And yeah, you know, there's marks on it, dings on it, but what the heck, he uses it, and fair play to him. So what we've got here actually is a 42.5mm case. I know there's some say 42, some say 43, but I put a set of calipers on there yesterday. I got 42.5. It's 13mm thick, 48mm lug to lug, and a bracelet size of 20. But as you can see, it does extend out. Yes, it has the normal Seiko end-link wobble, but that's, you know, what the heck. This was, after all, it was an affordable watch. But it was cool. It was an automatic watch, and it had that funky dial. So looking actually at the dial, we get in there. Now this is obviously the black dial variant. The most sought after seems to be the orange, and you can still get these watches for relatively good prices, but I must say they are starting to climb. It seems to be an iconic watch which everyone kind of wants in their collection. Everyone seems to want one. Now, the killer features on this is the loom. The loom is absolutely amazing, as you always expect on Seiko watches. You know, no matter what you say, the loom is always great. And this is an old watch, and it still glows really, really well. The dial itself is relatively simple. They do have these kind of applied markers, but nothing fancy, no metal around them or anything. You have the bare minimal text, automatic 200-meter diver. So this has got proper credentials as a diver. It is a fully functional diver. You have the day date window, which is synonymous with the what do you call it, Seiko's really. The chapter ring actually curves up. It's kind of a three-dimensional chapter ring. And this was back in the day when Seiko were actually putting their chapter rings and bezels in the correct position. So not like today, they actually were right back then, and they were cheaper. So over this you have hard looks. It actually looks like it has got a slight dome to it, because you can see there the distortion on that. Now a lot of people like swapping these out and putting sapphire in there, which is perfectly okay. You know, if I owned one, I possibly would do the same. Now the bezel, we have this lovely concave bezel going down to the crystal. It is kind of, you've got loads of purchase on the side here. If I turn it, the actual action. Now to be fair, it's not the best, but it's functional. So it does its job at the price, fair enough. I do find that it, even though it's 120 click, it feels more like a 60 click. It's really strange. And I find that every second one, you can actually spin it back on itself for one minute. So not there. I think it's just the spring wheel underneath needs to be raised up a fraction, but it's cool. It's kind of, you know, it looks the part. You do have a loom pip. Let's try and get it back up to there we go. And I like the way it then blends in to the case. As you can see here, it's kind of funky. So the bezel and the case are actually integral to each other. And I do quite like that feature. It's kind of, you don't really see that on any other watch really. I've never seen anything like that. Obviously you have this kind of asymmetric case where you've got up here, it kind of protects just round to the 130 and 1030 mark, and round here 730, but then this side goes all the way around to the crown, which is great for crown protection. But I must say, one problem I do find is when you want to unwind this watch, this area here does feel quite sharp against your fingers. But again, it's nitpicking on what was, yeah, a relatively cheap watch. The actual finishing was quite interesting. Got like a brush finish here and then a polishing coming down from the bezel, and so it's quite a funky combination. There's no sign crown. It is a screw down crown, being that it is a 200-meter diver. And as we check out the back, you can see we have the standard, if I can get in there, the standard case back, which is screwed down. Now the actual bracelet, it is quite funky actually, because I do like the way it's kind of brushed here, and then on the center links it's polished, and it lets it play with the light a little bit more, so it kind of reflects in that middle section, which I find quite interesting on this one. It is a pin and collar system. I've said it before and I'll say it again, not everyone likes pin and collar. I wasn't really a fan, but once you set it, it's set. That's it, there's no messing around. If you have screwed in, say you replace this with something like a strap code or whatever, with screwed links, you sometimes find that one of the screws starts undoing itself, and it's sometimes worth putting a little bit of Loctite in there or making sure they're strong, but you'd never get that with pin and collar. Now the actual clasp is nothing to write home about. It is folded steel. You do have full levels and micro adjustment, but solid as you would expect. This variation does have stamped inner, but again, this was a cheap watch. It's only later when it started becoming more and more expensive that these things started getting more beefier, but that actually wasn't the point of the Monster in the first place. You do have the dive link extension, so you pull down this middle bit and release out. He says, can I get the thing out? There we go, and there it is. That's your dive link extension. To put it back in, latch it over there and then press, and that's it. Now inside this you have the what is it, the 7S26, which is a predecessor from the NH35. So this is a bit of a gripe with the watch, but again, it's what it was back in the day. So if I pull this out, there is no hacking. What I mean by that is the second hand doesn't stop. So setting the watch accurately can be a problem, but a little trick you can sometimes find, if you put back pressure, now you see here, watch the second hand. Let me zoom in now. If I put a bit of back pressure on here, I can actually stop the second hand. In fact, if I apply a tiny bit more, you can actually get the second hand to sometimes go a little bit backwards as well. So that is the only way you can set one of these movements accurately to the second. If it's already got a full charge, then it's a bit harder to do, and you can't always do that. Now this hasn't got hand winding, so if let me just move the hands that way. So if I actually, there's nothing there, that's not hand winding at all. So the unfortunate thing with this is you have to kind of shake it, obviously gently, just to get it moving, and then put it on your wrist, and then it will actually take a charge as you're moving around. But again, if this is a watch you wear all the time, that simply isn't a problem. The movement itself is a 21 joule. I think it's got about 40 hours of power reserve. So, you know, it's perfectly okay. It does, I must say, it does feel nice. The weight of it is really, it feels substantial. It is actually quite nice. Now, I'll show you it on my wrist. Quick wrist check. I'm wearing a Zinyu X. Now my wrist size is a fraction over 7 inches. and there it is on my wrist. And I quite like it, to be fair. I think it looks really good. It is definitely a future classic, I think, from the Seiko range. It also looks really good. I tried it earlier on this strap as well. This is one of the newer Seiko straps. These are lovely and flexible. I found back in the day when this was released, I had a brand new Marine Master Bat with a waffle strap, and I thought it was blooming awful. It was so hard. These in comparison are beautiful, and they look really good on this watch. So there you go. But anyway, there you go. There's my little review of the Monster. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Stay safe out there, and all the best. Bye.